Let's start with the West Ham season so far. How are you feeling about it so far, 3 games in?
3 games in, I tell you, it's mixed feelings. Well, I mean, yeah, 3 Prem games in, four including the cup game. If you'd have asked me before the Forest game, it would have been doom and gloom. But I've got a little glimmer of hope after the Forest result. Getting that win, I saw some signs that we could be a good team with the right players in, but I'm still skeptical. That start was horrendous, but I'm still looking at Potter and seeing, right, can he pick the right lineup consistently and put out a good team? So yeah, a little bit more hopeful than I was a few weeks ago, that's for sure.
Just how big was that Forest result for you lot?
Yeah, it was a huge result. I think Potter, had he lost that game, I think there would have been major pressure to sack him. There would have been huge negativity going into the Spurs game. So it was much needed with the fixtures that we have. Spurs at home, we've got Palace, we've got Everton away, we've got Arsenal. We desperately needed 3 points, but I think the fans also needed to see a sign that this team could put a performance together, that we were worth watching. And I think when we saw the likes of Somerville and Wilson come on, it showed us the sort of team we could be. And also Fernandez in the midfield. Our midfield has been really horrendous. And we got to see with better players in the midfield that we could be a better team.
I'm intrigued to see your point on this. Jared Bowen, positionally, do you prefer him out wide or up front?
Yeah, he has to be out wide. He has to be out up front. I don't want to ever see him up front again. And that's not a knock on Bowen, but he's not a striker. He's right wing is his position. And if you shoehorn him and force him up front to accommodate other players or a system that you're trying to force through, then we're weaker as a result. He loves to be out on that wing and cut inside and, gets shots off. Him being that key man up front and us trying to, pump balls up to him and him hold up play, it's just not gonna happen. So yeah, honestly, for the rest of the season, unless it's an emergency, I don't want to ever see him up front again. He needs to be on that right wing week in, week out.
Now, that Nottingham Forest result might have changed your answer here or swayed you towards the other way, but Graham Potter, in or out for you?
Yeah, I mean, before the Forest result, I was still kind of in. A lot of it did hedge on that. If we had lost to Forest, then I think I would have given up hope. But for me, it's just seeing that we've got new signings in, we've got new players in, what he can do now. The time and patience isn't massive. I want to see a quick turnaround, just in terms of show me progression, show me a team that isn't just going to let the game pass them by or isn't going to just pass it sideways and backwards and be slow. We've got quick players now. We've got Somerville, who's rapid, who's once fit should be starting. We've got Guilherme, who's another pacey player in that same position. So both of them should be bankers. And our midfield, I don't want to ever see a midfield of Souček, Ward-Prowse, and Rodriguez again. If I'm seeing that in the midfield, then he's got to go. So I think that's what fans are looking at now. If we see him go to that back five again against Spurs, then I think we're just going to lose faith. If we can consistently, now you've got some players in, put out good lineups, get us playing well, then I'm behind him. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm Potter out, but I'm still skeptical at the moment on him.
Talk to me about the atmosphere at the stadium. Compare it to Upton Park. A lot of players and fans all comment on how big the difference is. What's your point of view on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's night and day. I mean, from the atmosphere, the match day experience as a whole is atrocious. We was voted I think the fifth worst away day in all of English football, and we was only the fifth worst. Well, because Everton's was voted worst because the ground wasn't open yet. So their new stadium was the worst because I guess no one could go there when that poll was done. And there was a few other ones that like in lower divisions that are probably better than West Ham's one. It's just really sanitized and it's just not the West Ham that we grew up with. The pubs, there's only one decent pub around in the local area. The rest are all gentrified hipster bars, and inside the ground, it's just not built for football. It's an athletic stadium. My seat, I gave up my season ticket because I hated that stadium, and my seat was on scaffolding. It was temporary scaffolding seats. For a lot of people, the view from the pitch to the stands is terrible, and it just doesn't feel West Ham. It don't feel like home, and that's the big problem. It feels like a neutral ground, whereas Upton Park, it felt like home. It was comfortable, and yeah, it's night and day. I honestly absolutely despise that stadium.
Is there any way of turning that into what may feel like home one day?
You would have to. Now, I'm not an architect or anything like that, but for me, two major things is the seating has to change. These gaps, especially behind the goals between the upper stands and lower stands, are horrendous. We need to get them seats closer to the pitch. If you could make it a little bit steeper, that would be some, and just get the seats claret. It sounds so superficial, but I look at every team in the league. We're the only team that has barely any branding on our seats to say it's our team. You go to Arsenal, all the seats are red. Chelsea, the seats are blue. Villa, the seats are claret. Us, the seats are white with a smattering of like a couple of claret and blue seats scattered around. But you look at it, it's the only club that I can think of it's not in our colours. Those seats were all claret with some blue on it, some blue seats mixed up. It would feel West Ham as soon as you stepped in. So I think that would be a big thing. But obviously, yeah, being closer. That was the big thing about Upton Park. It was close, it was tight. And if we could do that, then it would start to feel like ours. And we actually owned it. And we'd have to keep ripping up our seats for athletics every summer or Foo Fighters or whatever it bloody is.
We mentioned three league games in so far. Um, Doom and gloom before the last result. Fast forward end of season. What's a good season finish for West Ham?
A good season, I think for this one, Potter's first full season, if we was to get top 10, I think that's a solid season that we can build on. I would like to say for us to be pushing for Europe. I think that should be our goal and our aim. But with the start that we had, and the transfer window we had, we signed some good players. We're still light in places. It's a stretch for me to say, right, we must be challenging for Europe or we must get at least Conference League. So if we're out of that relegation trouble, mid-table, top 10 finish, whatever it is, I take that as a first season in this transition. And then next season, the goal will be get back into Europe. That's what we need to look at.
I always like to look at the next generation and academy players. Who, in your opinion, is one to watch from the West Ham youth teams?
Yeah, we've got a few. The one I'm really looking at the moment hasn't actually been given any minutes in the senior squad. He's a player called Mo Kante, centre midfielder, absolute giant, a unit of a player. And yeah, he is, I think, the sort of profile that we've been needing in that team, an absolute powerhouse in the midfield. And that's one I'm sort of really looking forward to seeing coming up. I think we've got a lot of exciting youngsters that we've seen. Freddie Potts is another one in that midfield. Callum Marshall with Fulkrug out. I think you may see him get some minutes because it's just Wilson and Marshall as our two recognised strikers. So he's one you're going to get to see a bit of. And obviously Luis Guillermo, I mentioned the youngster we bought from Brazil, who's quite exciting, very quick player. So I think we've got a lot of young players there. Ollie Scarl's left back as well. He's our second. We've got two young left backs. We've got Diouf, who's 20, and Scarles is 19-20, both at left back. So there's a lot of young players there. Potter just needs to give them a chance. It's a bit tricky now we're out of Carabao, but I just think now with the squad, the size of the squad we've got, even off the bench, you're going to see minutes from them.
And just finally, last thing I'm going to do is a winner stays on. But I see a lot of these, and there's always one winner, Mr. West Ham, Mark Noble. So we're not going to include him in this one.
Yep.
So we're going to start off Joe Cole or Rio Ferdinand.
Joe Cole.
Joe
King
Cole
Rio.
or Joe Cole or Jermaine Defoe.
Joe Cole.
Joe Cole or Tony Gale.
For my generation, Tony Gale more West actually. Tony Gale. Joe Cole's more associated with Chelsea. So Tony Gale.
Tony Gale or Tony Cottee?
Tony Cottee.
Tony Cottee or Julian Dix?
Oh, for the goals. Tony Cottee for the goals.
Tony Cottee or Stuart Pearce?
Tony Cottee.
Tony Cottee or Michael Antonio?
Tony Cottee. He's a West Ham fan.
Tony Cottee or Di Canio?
Oh, do you know what? I'm gonna give it to Tony Cottee still.
And Tony Cottee or Declan Rice?
Tony Cottee, no questions asked. You could have said any other player on that list. I would have said them over Rice. That's for sure. So yeah, Tony Cottee.
Tony Cottee a winner. Nice one. Perfect. Dennis, everything I want to ask you, mate. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Glad to come on.